Our first order of business when we got to Kanazawa was to sing for the Board of Education.
And the mayor.
And the mayor. So on the train to Kanazawa, we came up with a really snappy medley of This Land Is Your Land and Take Me Out to the Ball Game, which we sang everywhere we went. We felt like rock stars. We were in the newspaper every day.
Every day.
So today, rather than reprise that old tune, we've written a new one just for you.
Tea ceremonies and tatami mats, mountain nashida, kids' yellow hats, paper and plastic all tied up with strings. These are a few of my favorite things.
Fish markets, ninjas, and samurai castles.
Geisha kimonos, headdresses with tassels, lacquer and gold leaf and silk in the streams. These are a few of my favorite things. Kanazawa, Ishikawa, when I'm feeling sad, I'll simply remember my favorite things, and then I won't feel so bad.
Okay, word is we've gone viral on Japanese YouTube.
When we first got to Kanazawa, our first meeting with the school system was to learn about bonds education. And although we also have wonderful schools in the United States, because of our funding structure, most of us automatically assumed that bonds education meant school bonds, which is, for us, a way to subsidize our schools. We were delighted to learn that in Japan, bonds education means creating human bonds. ESD schools in Kanazawa integrate their curriculum to create a culture where students learn to bond with their local society, to bond with the natural world, and to bond with the world. Thank you.
Ikeda Elementary focuses on international understanding education due to a large population of foreign students. We were greeted at Ikeda with a Korean fan dance and percussion songs, as well as international games. Ikeda has students from many countries, including Korea, Philippines, Vietnam, China, and Singapore, and parents will often visit schools to share their international culture and heritage with the students. The students have worked on the Hiroshima Peace Project to promote world peace and to overcome prejudice. Our school visit ended with a song about peace and understanding. The Kanazawa Izumino Library is a United Nations depository library that loans UN documents and materials, and any citizen in the prefecture has access to those documents. Finally, at Ishikawa National College of Technology, students are focused on education for international understanding. The school has many international students from Laos, Malaysia, Uganda, and Mongolia. The school also sponsors an English club where students practice English with each other. Many students have spent time as foreign exchange students, including a student that spent the past year in Hawaii. After the disaster in Japan, students from her school in Hawaii put together a book of pictures and messages to send to the victims of the disaster, which all of the American teachers here also signed.
Bonds with nature. At the various schools, we saw many schools that grew plants, vegetable plants, for the children to eat. We recognized that even though the schools were in the city, an emphasis was put on utilizing available green space to produce seasonal local vegetables and rain gardens. We saw a lot of schools caring for animals. They had pets such as fish, frogs, insects, rabbits, and more. And we saw that this helped to teach about life cycles. It taught responsibility and compassion for living things. In every school, we saw recycling. In many different ways. But we saw that the caps for plastic bottles, the PET bottles, was a really, really big one. And then throughout the day, everything was recycled. The cartons from milk containers, plastic bottles, paper from schools. We found it very impressive that this was happening in the school, and we saw that it taught personal responsibility and cooperation with a global outlook. We saw many other kinds of gardens, not just food plants, but we saw biotopes, rain gardens, ground swales, and these seemed to focus on native species and rainwater repurposing.
For data collection, some schools had cicada and firefly counts, and after school hours, kids came back, and 85 to 90% of the kids actually did come back, which is pretty impressive. I couldn't get my students to do that. And they were checking out the native species, and they used scientific tools and scientific methods that were extremely authentic. Next, for the forest maintenance, when they were thinning the forest, a lot of times the wood wasn't really used, and one of the schools made furniture, new furniture. New Jersey. So they created new furniture out of the thinning material. The environmental science experiments, they collect rainwater and use that for flushing toilets, and they also had storage rainwater for any kind of emergencies. 2 of the schools had solar panels. The green technology produced electricity for the schools.